Doctor Who: The Sands of Time by Jenny O'Connor. Read by Matthew Chambers. When the Doctor shut the door on Desair 7, he did just that. "Ah! Sandbag!" he exploded, turning towards a subdued Sharon and a patient K9.
"Master,"
came the familiar metallic monotone.
"Illogical to tread sand onto interior flooring when the sole—"
"Purpose of remaining here," interrupted the Doctor, "was to avoid getting sand into your rollers. You're right, my dear little chap. I'll find a brush and—"
"Do not worry, Master. Sensor report that this time vehicle should be thoroughly cleaned. I will begin,"
came K9's response to the unlikely thought of the Doctor coming to grips with the housework.
"I will sweep it outside, right outside where it came from,"
insisted K9's metallic tones. The Doctor's usual deference to the wishes of the dog disappeared like a glass of Danubian cherryade at the thought of setting eyes on the rolling desert of Desair 7 ever again. "No," he cried. "If I ever see this place again, it'll be too soon, K9. I believe that the kindest thing for you to do would to leave the door firmly shut, just brush the sand into the dustpan, and leave the thing until later. You know, I don't think I've ever walked so far with sand between me toes. Not since Alterus 2, anyhow, when that sandworm stole my trousers while I was sunbathing. K9, do you remember Alterus 2? Not wishing to be drawn into the conversation about the dreadful incident in question, K9 busied himself with his duties and pretended not to hear. All was still as the moons of Desair 7 rose over the distant mountain ranges, illuminating the TARDIS in their soft glow. Inside, the Doctor sat on the edge of his bed and brushed the sand from his feet with a sock. He was, if anything, slightly angry with himself for allowing Sharon and K9 to talk him into spending a night on that wretched planet. As the grains of sand fell onto the floor, they shone and twinkled like tiny stars. Strangest sand I've ever laid my eyes on, I should say, mused the Doctor. Stifling a yawn, he extinguished the light and relaxed backwards into the welcoming softness of his bed. Unseen by the Doctor, the grains of sand around his discarded socks had begun to emit a strange glow. The glow intensified and grew, stretching upwards towards the slumbering Doctor. Hanging in the air, the glow began to evolve and slowly took on a form. A spluttering, crackling hiss shattered the silence of the room and shook the Doctor into a sudden wakefulness. Willing his sleepy eyes to focus, he froze as the hissing broke into words.
We house the Cristella are waiting long for one such as you to right the dread wrongs.
Before the astonished Doctor, the glow waned and disappeared completely, leaving the Doctor staring at the glowing grains of sand that remained. My word, a great wrong? The poor fellow and his people have been done a great wrong. Still pondering the problem, the Doctor's slippered feet shuffled along the semi-darkened corridors of the TARDIS. Passing the door to Sharon's room, the Doctor glanced in at her sleeping form to make sure all was well.
Yes, good girl, he whispered. Just get some rest. No need for concern,
The doctor addressed the small, inert shape just ahead of him in the corridor.
K9, can you tell me something?
Master?
Came a muted reply.
Well,
Continued the doctor.
I'd like you to tell me where you put the sand that you brushed together earlier on. I've got an idea that there's something more to the sand than meets the eye. Well, in your case, your optic sensor.
In a matter of moments, K9 watched as the doctor placed a small bag of sand at the foot of Sharon's bed, and then came quietly out of her room, leaving the door slightly ajar. He knelt down and whispered an explanation to his small metal companion.
You see, K9, I think that something in the sand woke me up and spoke to me. The image faded just after I woke. I've an idea that the energy can only establish contact with a sleeping mind.
And as Mistress Sharon is asleep,
Guessed the dog.
you hope the sand might be able to contact her now in order for us to learn more.
Exactly,
Confirmed the doctor.
especially as there is more sand in that bag than there was on my socks.
The last piece of information confused K9 no end, but he knew better than to pursue the matter further, and resolved to await developments. The doctor and K9 settled down in the gloom of the corridor to wait, and the minutes went quietly by. The doctor's resonant tones suddenly broke the silence.
I spy with my little eye.
His voice trailed away as a glow began to emanate from within Sharon's room.
Master,
The mechanical dog began, to be silenced by the doctor's raised finger. The glow had returned and was communicating with Sharon.
Better stand back, old fellow,
Warned the doctor.
She'll be out soon. I think I'd better make some tea. I've got a feeling she'll need it.
Swathed in a dressing gown and cradling a steaming mug of tea in her shaking hands, Sharon was soon excitedly retelling the tale.
And he said, the glow said that it all happened millions of years ago. Eons ago.
aeons ago, mistress.
Interjected the mechanical dictionary.
Aeons ago.
Sharon continued. A cosmic disaster shook the sector of space. A comet from the rim of the universe collided with a neighbouring planet and released a great shockwave which travelled across space towards this planet. The Delia elders realised that this shockwave would shatter their crystal bodies.
Ah, so the whole desert out there,
Said the doctor slowly,
and the sand that I trod back in here, was once the planet's population of gem people. How fascinating. Utterly fascinating. It seems as if dear old Dessar is not as boring a place as it seemed to be. Yes.
Somewhat reassured by the doctor's increasing grip on the problem, Sharon continued.
And as the deadline approached, the elders were unable to find a solution to the problem, and at the last minute, their planet's greatest master criminal, Zebal, offered them a chance of survival. Although he'd been imprisoned for dabbling in the black arts, they accepted his proposal, having no alternative. It was in the last few days before the wave struck, Zebal constructed a small protective arc which was only large enough for him and his equipment. It was designed to repel the effects of the shockwave and allow him to operate his devices, including a cosmic generator, which would reverse the destructive effects of the waves. The reversal never took place, although the Cristela discovered that their life forms remained as a weak mental force which was attached to the grains of sand and contacted us.
Sharon completed her tale and gazed at her companions across the table.
How very intriguing,
Said the doctor.
So, the more sand that we have, the stronger the mental link with the sleeping, and the sand in my socks was weakened by being such a small amount.
Weakened? More logically, by being in your socks, Master,
droned the dog.
Very good, Canine. Yes, that's very good,
mused the Doctor, inwardly proud of the obvious success of his programming experiments to give Canine a sense of humour.
I think that we should find the Ark and discover what went wrong with poor old Zeebel's plans.
Poor old Zeebel!
Exploded Sharon.
He betrayed his people. They gave him a chance to redeem himself, and it was mass murder!
Illogical,
came the monotone.
The Crystallans are still alive. There was no murder committed.
The silence which greeted the dog's statement stood testament to the accuracy of the observation and lasted until the Doctor's command rang out.
Man the systems! We must locate the Ark! Yes!
Better obey, Mistress,
said Canine.
You know it is unwise to disobey the Doctor's orders.
Perhaps the humour programming wasn't such a good idea after all,
thought the Doctor, as the TARDIS rose above the desert sands, the silent remains of a once proud race. The shadow of a great skeletal tower glinting in the morning sun was joined by a skittering second shadow. The shadow was cast by the strangely incongruous blue police box, poised to settle atop the oval arc at the tip of the vessel. As he lowered himself through a trapdoor in the roof of the small structure, the Doctor's feet crunched upon the now familiar substance of Desar 7.
Sand,
he called up.
There, Sharon. It seems I was right after all.
How do you mean, Doctor? Questioned the girl, peering through the open trapdoor.
I mean, poor old Zeebel's protective arc didn't save him, and he was turned to sand too. But,
he went on, examining Zeebel's jumbled banks of machinery,
enough of his clutter did work to keep his people alive.
There was a deep silence. Eventually, Sharon called down into the gloom.
Can you make out any of the machinery, Doctor?
Her anxious voice echoed down among the strange tubes, screens, and tangled wiring to where the Doctor knelt.
I think so. In fact, if this poor fellow hadn't gone to pieces, he would have succeeded. It seems all we have to do is to pull this lever and give his machinery full power. You better get out fast when you do,
called Sharon,
because there's no room for both of you and he might be, well, dangerous. I quite agree,
murmured the Doctor, his knuckles whitening as his grip tightened on the power control lever. It moved slowly downwards, and with a force that took him completely by surprise, the small cockpit-like compartment was alive with a fierce, glowing sandstorm. Trapped as he was among the tangle of machinery, the Doctor was helpless as the now fully formed gem creature leaned menacingly forward.
I say, jolly good show, I mean,
came the tremulous introduction.
Bits of a miscalculation, what?
He said, examining the outer shell of the Ark with an extended feeler.
Knew I should have laid the shielding thicker,
he mumbled. The Doctor relaxed.
Ah, it seems our master criminal is not the desperado we thought him to be, he thought. Are you okay, Doctor?
Excitement tinged Sharon's voice.
Because there are about 10 million crystal creatures down below who want to see you. Not me,
corrected the Doctor, dusting himself off.
They want to see Zeebel. By the way, old thing,
continued the Doctor, turning to the poor, stuttering crystal behind him.
What on Desar did they imprison you for in the first place?
The practice of science,
stuttered the nervous hero.
Ah, well then, I think we may be able to put in a good word for you with the elders,
assured the Doctor, helping Zeebel up through the trapdoor. Once aboard the TARDIS, nothing remained but the downward flight to reunite Zeeble with the cheering hordes below. What, questioned the Doctor, turning to his faithful computer dog, do your databanks think of Zeeble's imprisonment for practicing science?
For someone only practicing, Master, he was exceptionally good at it,
came the reply.
That does it! That does it! Those humour banks will have to come out.
Illogical to infer blame is mine.
Retorted the dog.
Standard of humour depends entirely upon programming.
I think that's what he's trying to say,
added Sharon.
is that they can't all be gems.
As if in agreement, the Doctor's screwdriver had already begun to loosen the dog's service access panel.
Now then, hold still, there's a good chap,
reassured the Doctor.
This won't hurt a bit.